Chapter 1. The Roman Empire wasn't always an empire for centuries, before Rome became the vast empire that would stretch from the Atlantic Ocean to the Near East. It was something far different, a republic from roughly 509 BCE to 27 BCE. Rome functioned under a system of government that, at least in principle, rejected monarchy and placed power in the hands of elected officials and representative institutions. The transition from republic to empire was not an overnight change, nor was it a straightforward shift dictated by a single event. Instead, it was a long and complex process, shaped by political ambition, military conquest, social upheaval, and the gradual erosion of republican traditions. The path from a city-state governed by the Senate to an autocratic empire under Augustus was paved with civil wars, charismatic leaders, and evolving ideas of power. The Republic was born from the ashes of monarchy. According to tradition, Rome's last king, Lucius Tarquinius Superbus, was overthrown in 9 BCE after his tyrannical rule and the infamous assault committed by his son against the noblewoman Lucretia. In the wake of the monarchy's downfall, Rome's aristocratic families established a government that they believed would prevent any single individual from holding absolute power. Instead of a king, executive authority was vested in 2 consuls, elected annually, and expected to rule in tandem, each possessing the power to veto the other's decisions. This system was designed to ensure that no single person could dominate Rome in the manner of a monarch beneath the consuls. A network of magistrates' assemblies and the all-important Senate helped govern the city and its expanding territories. At the heart of the Republic's governance was the Senate, an institution that wielded enormous influence, despite its ostensibly advisory role composed of Rome's aristocratic elite. The Senate directed foreign policy, controlled state finances, and played a crucial role in selecting magistrates over time. Its authority grew, and while the Republic prided itself on being a system of laws rather than a government ruled by men, in reality power remained concentrated in the hands of Rome's patrici class. Even as the Republic expanded and the number of citizens increased, true political power remained largely inaccessible to the lower classes. However, as Rome grew, so too did the tensions between different factions within society. A defining feature of the Republic's political landscape was the ongoing struggle between the patricians and the plebeians. The former were Rome's aristocratic families, the traditional landowners and holders of political office. The latter encompassed the common people who had fewer privileges, but made up the bulk of Rome's military force. Over centuries, plebeians pushed for and gained more rights, leading to the creation of new political offices, such as the tribune of the plebs, whose role was to protect the interests of the common people. The 12 Tables, Rome's earliest codification of laws, provided some legal protections for plebeians, though the patrician class continued to dominate the highest positions of government. This uneasy balance between the elite and the masses would become increasingly fragile as Rome's power and wealth grew. The expansion of Rome's borders was both a cause and a consequence of the Republic's transformation. What began as a regional power in central Italy soon turned into a dominant force across the Mediterranean through a series of wars: the conquest of Italy, the Punic Wars against Carthage, and numerous campaigns in Greece, Spain, and the Near East. Rome amassed enormous wealth and territory. But with this expansion came new challenges. Generals who commanded Rome's armies became more powerful than ever before, often holding the loyalty of their soldiers more strongly than the Senate's authority. Many of these military leaders, such as Gaius Marius and Sulla, leveraged their military successes to gain political influence. Sometimes using force to impose their will on the government, this increasing militarization of politics eroded the principles of the Republic. The late Republic was defined by a series of internal conflicts as powerful leaders. 6 for dominance. The most famous of these conflicts culminated in the rise and assassination of Julius Caesar. A brilliant general and politician, Caesar expanded Rome's control over Gaul and built a loyal following among his troops. When the Senate, fearing his growing power, ordered him to disband his army, he instead marched on Rome in 49 BCE, igniting a civil war. His victory led to his dictatorship, a role that, although not unprecedented, came with an authority that far exceeded the usual temporary emergency powers granted in times of CR, as though he claimed to be restoring order. Many feared that he was positioning himself as a new king. In 44 BCE, he was assassinated by senators who saw themselves as defenders of the Republic. But rather than restoring the old system, his death only plunged. The final nail in the coffin of the Republic came in the aftermath of Caesar's assassination. His heir and adopted son Octavian, along with Mark Antony and Lepidus, formed the Second Triumph. It ostensibly to avenge Caesar's death and stabilize Rome, but this alliance was temporary. And as power struggles emerged, Octavian and Antony turned on each other in the decisive Battle of Actium. In 31 BCE, Octavian emerged victorious, defeating Ananone and his ally, Queen Cleopatra of Egypt, with no remaining rivals. Octavian positioned himself as Rome's supreme authority, unlike Caesar, who had openly taken the title of dictator. Octavian carefully framed his power in a way that seemed to preserve republican traditions. In 27 BCE, he declared that he was restoring the Republic, but in reality, he retained absolute control. The Senate granted him the title Augustus, marking the beginning of the Roman Empire. Despite its name, the Republic had long been moving toward a more autocratic, formally established imperial rule. The mechanisms of power had gradually shifted with military loyalty, replacing senatorial authority and individual leaders outmaneuvering institutional checks. Augustus's rule set the template for the emperors who would follow, consolidating Rome's transition from a republic governed by many to an empire ruled by one. The echoes of the Republic lingered, but its age had definitively ended. The transformation of Rome from republic to empire was not merely a change in leadership, but a fundamental shift in governance, society, and ideology. It was driven by the challenges of expansion, the ambitions of individuals, and the Republic's own internal contradictions, while Augustus took pains to maintain the illusion that he was simply the first citizen rather than an outright monarch. His reign marked the beginning of an era in which emperors would wield supreme authority. The Republic had lasted nearly 5 centuries, but by the end of the 1st century, BCE, it had become a relic of the past, supplanted by a new form of government that would shape the course of history for centuries to come. The empire that followed would both expand and transform Rome itself, leaving behind a legacy that would endure long after its eventual fall. Chapter 2, Roman Concrete, was nearly indestructible. The engineering marvels of ancient Rome continue to captivate modern architects, historians, and scientists alike. Among the many groundbreaking achievements of Roman civilization, one particular innovation stands out as a testament to their ingenuity: Roman concrete, or opus centium. Unlike modern concrete, which tends to degrade over decades or centuries, Roman concrete has withstood the ravages of time, natural disasters, and even the corrosive effects of seawater. Many ancient Roman structures, from aqueducts to harbors and massive public buildings, still stand today, largely because of the exceptional durability of this material. But what made Roman concrete so incredibly resilient? The answer lies in a unique combination of ingredients, an advanced understanding of materials, and a bit of geological serendipity. To appreciate the significance of Roman concrete, one must first understand the limitations of its modern counterpart. Modern concrete is primarily composed of Portland cement, which is mixed with aggregates such as sand, gravel, and water to create a hardened material. While modern concrete is strong, it is also vulnerable to cracking and degradation, particularly when exposed to environmental stresses like salt water, extreme temperatures, or constant mechanical strain. In contrast, Roman concrete was not only strong, but also capable of self-repair, allowing it to endure for millennia in conditions that would reduce modern materials to rubble. The key to this unparalleled longevity lies in the composition of Roman concrete. Ancient Roman engineers incorporated a crucial ingredient: volcanic ash, often sourced from deposits near Naples, such as the famous Potana region. This volcanic ash, when mixed with lime and seawater, formed a chemical reaction that significantly enhanced the strength and longevity of the material. The panic reaction, named after the volcanic ash of Potana, allowed Roman concrete to bond at the molecular level, creating an extremely durable matrix that could resist cracking over time exposure to water. Even the salty seawater found in Roman harbors actually strengthened the concrete rather than eroding it. One of the most fascinating properties of Roman concrete is its ability to self-heal. Modern researchers, analyzing samples from ancient Roman structures, have found that when cracks form in the concrete, the presence of volcanic ash allows new minerals, particularly aluminous tuate and philipsite, to form and fill in the cracks. This natural self-healing mechanism ensured that structures remained intact for centuries, even in the face of relentless waves and shifting earth. Roman engineers may not have fully understood the complex chemistry behind this phenomenon, but their empirical knowledge allowed them to construct some of the most enduring architectural wonders in history. Perhaps the most striking example of Roman concrete superiority can be found in the still-standing harbors and maritime structures that the Romans built along the Mediterranean coast. Unlike modern marine concrete, which deteriorates quickly when exposed to the constant battering of waves and the corrosive effects of saltwater, Roman harbor concrete has remained intact for over 2,000 years. Researchers studying these submerged ruins have discovered that the interaction between seawater and the volcanic ash within the concrete over time, essentially making it more resilient. The longer it was exposed to marine environments, the Romans utilized their remarkable concrete in a wide array of structures. The Pantheon in Rome, famous for its massive dome, is one of the most well-preserved ancient buildings in the world, due in no small part to the effectiveness of Roman concrete. The Colosseum, aqueducts such as the Pont du Gard in France, and roads that crisscross the empire were all made possible because of this durable material. The use of opus centium allowed the Romans to build quickly and efficiently, while ensuring that their infrastructure would last for generations, despite the undeniable success of Roman concrete. The knowledge of its precise formulation was gradually lost with the fall of the Roman Empire. As Europe entered the Middle Ages, the construction of grand Roman-style structures diminished, and the superior properties of Roman concrete faded from common use. It wasn't until recent decades that scientists and engineers began investigating the secrets of Roman concrete in earnest, seeking to replicate its self-healing and highly durable characteristics. The modern construction industry has made numerous advancements, but researchers continue to explore ways to integrate the wisdom of ancient Roman engineering into new materials. If successful, this could revolutionize the way we build structures, reducing maintenance costs, improving longevity, and making infrastructure more resilient to the effects of climate change. Today, engineers and material scientists study Roman concrete with a renewed sense of admiration, hoping to adapt its principles for contemporary applications. If a modern equivalent can be developed, it could lead to the creation of buildings, bridges, and roads that last centuries rather than decades. From an environmental perspective, the potential benefits are profound. Traditional Portland cement production is one of the leading sources of industrial carbon dioxide emissions, whereas Roman concrete, with its reliance on naturally occurring volcanic materials and its long-lasting durability, presents a more sustainable alternative. By revisiting the past, we may be able to unlock a more sustainable. And don't forget to like and subscribe Enduring Future for Construction. The Roman engineers may not have had the sophisticated scientific tools of today, but their understanding of materials and their practical ingenuity enabled them to develop a building material that remains superior in many ways to what we use now. Their mastery of concrete not only allowed them to shape an empire, but also left a lasting legacy that continues to inspire innovation in the modern world. As we uncover more about the secrets of Roman concrete, we are reminded that sometimes the key to progress lies in learning from the past. Chapter 3. Gladiators were celebrities, but many were slaves. Few figures from ancient Rome capture the imagination, quite like the gladiator armed with swords, trident, and nets. These warriors fought in brutal combat, often to the death in grand arenas, before roaring crowds, while many people today think of gladiators as little more than violent entertainers. Their role in Roman society was complex. They were both despised and adored, forced into battle, yet celebrated as heroes. Some earned vast riches, while others perished anonymously in the sand. The world of the gladiator was one of contradiction, one where fame and slavery, honor and brutality were inextricably linked. Gladiatorial combat has its roots in funeral rites. The first recorded gladiator fights in Rome took place in 264 BCE during the funeral of a prominent aristocrat named Decius Junius Brutus. Originally, such combat was intended as a way to honor the dead, with warriors fighting to appease the spirits of the deceased over time. However, these contests evolved from solemn ritual to state-sponsored spectacle. By the height of the Roman Empire, gladiatorial games had become a central part of public entertainment, held in massive amphitheaters such as the Colosseum, where tens of thousands of spectators could witness the bloody contests. Most gladiators were not free men. Many were prisoners of war, criminals condemned to fight, or slaves bought and trained for combat. Captured warriors from conquered lands such as the Thracians and Germans were particularly valued for their fighting skills and exotic appeal. Roman authorities also sentenced criminals, especially those guilty of severe offenses, to death in the arena. These condemned men were given weapons and forced to fight for their lives. Unlike trained gladiators, they had little chance of survival. Despite their origins, gladiators had the potential to rise beyond their station. Some became immensely popular, drawing enormous crowds eager to see them fight. Victorious gladiators earned money gifts and even the possibility of freedom. If a gladiator performed exceptionally well, he might be awarded a wooden sword called a rudish, symbolizing his release from servitude. These freedmen often went on to train new recruits in gladiator schools, or even returned to the arena as voluntary fighters known as oati. While gladiators were usually seen as property rather than citizens, they became sex symbols and cultural icons, and some were so enamored that they collected vials of gladiator sweat, believed to have aphrodisiac properties. Wealthy Roman women were known to have affairs with famous gladiators, much to the dismay of their aristocratic husbands. Roman writers, such as Juvenal, seized the obsession some women had with these rugged warriors, illustrating the social tension their status created, despite being of low birth. Gladiators could command adoration that rivaled that of the most esteemed senators. Not all gladiators were slaves. Some were free men who willingly entered the arena for the chance at wealth and fame. These volunteers, gladiators or arati, signed contracts to fight for a specific period in exchange for substantial rewards. Some were former soldiers down on their luck, citizens, or thrill-seekers eager for the glory of combat. A few members of the Roman elite, even dabbled in gladiatorial combat, much to the horror of their peers. The Emperor Commodus, for instance, notoriously fought as a gladiator, often staging one-sided battles to ensure his victory. His obsession with the sport was one of many reasons why his rule would seen as decadent and unstable gladiatorial schools. Or ludi played a crucial role in the lives of these fighters. These institutions run by trainers known as dues, or lani, were highly organized and rigorous, underwent intense training in specialized fighting techniques depending on their assigned combat style. The different types of gladiators, such as the heavily armored mimo, the net-wielding retiarius, or the fast-moving THX, each had distinct fighting strategies and equipment. Despite the brutality of the arena, discipline and strategy were just as important as brute strength. The games themselves were elaborate affairs, often beginning with grand processions and ritual sacrifices. Gladiators were paraded before the crowds and patrons of the games. The emperors, senators, or wealthy citizens who sponsored them were honored for their generosity. The fights varied in nature. Some were one-on-one duels, while others pitted groups of warriors against each other. Occasionally, wild animals were introduced into the battles, forcing gladiators to confront lions, tigers, or bears in deadly spectacles known as veneton. The fate of a defeated gladiator often rested in the hands of the spectators or the presiding official. If a fighter displayed courage and skill, but lost, the crowd might plead for mercy by waving their hands or shouting for him to be spared. If the gladiator had fought poorly or was deemed unworthy, a thumbs-down gesture could seal his fate. Contrary to popular belief, the thumbs down did not necessarily mean death. Rather, it indicated that the presiding official had the authority to decide. Some emperors were merciful, while others relished the bloodshed, granting no reprieve. As Rome evolved, so too did attitudes toward gladiatorial combat by the later years of the empire. Opposition to the brutality of the games began to emerge. Philosophers like Sena criticized the senseless violence, and Christian leaders condemned the games as immoral. The increasing influence of Christianity played a major role in the decline of gladiatorial combat. By the 5th century CE, under the reign of Emperor Honorius, the games were officially abolished, bringing an end to one of Rome's most enduring traditions. Though the age of the gladiator is long past, their legacy endures. Their stories have been immortalized in art, literature, and film, cementing their place in popular culture as symbols of strength, resilience, and defiance. Whether seen as exploited slaves or celebrated warriors, gladiators remain one of the most compelling figures of ancient Rome, embodying both the grandeur and brutality of an empire that continues to fascinate the modern world. The worlds they inhabited may be gone, but their impact remains a brutal yet mesmerizing reminder of a civilization that in spectacle, violence, and the pursuit of glory. Chapter 4. Rome had an ancient fast food culture. The bustling streets of ancient Rome were filled with the sights, sounds, and smells of a society constantly on the move. Among the most remarkable aspects of daily Roman life was its vibrant food culture, which in many ways resembled modern fast food. Unlike the grand feasts often associated with Roman elites, the majority of citizens relied on quick, inexpensive meals purchased from street vendors and small eateries. These establishments, known as thermopolia, provided essential nourishment to Rome's working class, catering to the needs of a population that often lacked the means or space to cook at home. For many Romans, particularly those living in cramped insular multi-story apartment buildings, cooking was impractical or outright impossible. These structures, made of wood and brick, were often prone to fires, making open flames a dangerous risk. As a result, many lower and middle-class Romans turned to thopaea, small shops, where vendors sold ready-to-eat meat meals counters. These bustling eateries functioned much like modern fast food restaurants, offering an array of affordable, quickly prepared dishes for customers who needed a meal on the go. Thermopylae could be found on nearly every street corner in Rome, as well as in cities throughout the empire. Archaeological excavations in places like Pompeii have revealed remarkably well-preserved examples of these establishments, with intact counters, cooking utensils, and even painted frescoes advertising the available menu items. The counters were typically lined with round, sunken doia, large ceramic jars that held hot food much like modern buffet trays. The menu often included bread, cheese, lentils, olives, nuts, and sometimes even meats. One particularly popular staple was garum, a pungent fermented fish sauce that was used as a seasoning in a variety of dishes. Street food was not only a necessity, but also a reflection of Rome's diverse and cosmopolitan nature. The empire's vast reach meant that flavors and ingredients from distant provinces made their way into Roman cuisine. Spices from the East, grains from Egypt, and seafood from the Mediterranean all found their way into Therapia offerings. While the wealthiest Romans could afford lavish banquets with exotic delicacies, common people often enjoyed simpler yet flavorful meals that reflected the melting pot of Roman culture. The social aspect of Thermopylae was another crucial element of their appeal. Much like modern cafes or food stalls, these establishments served as gathering places where citizens could eat, drink, and converse. Workers, merchants, and travelers would congregate at these bustling hubs, discussing politics, business, or daily affairs while enjoying a warm meal. The affordability of Thermopylae also made them accessible to people of all social classes, though wealthier Romans generally preferred to dine at home or in private villas. Despite their popularity, Thermopylae were sometimes viewed with suspicion by Roman elites, and moralists. Some considered them to be gathering places for the lower classes, criminals, and the idle, fostering disorderly behavior. The Roman historian Sena, for example, criticized such establishments for encouraging excessive indulgence and laziness. Nevertheless, their importance in daily life was undeniable, providing countless citizens with access to food that was both convenient and affordable. In addition to Thermopylae, other forms of quick meals were readily available throughout Rome. Vendors roamed the streets, selling snacks such as roasted chickpeas, honey cakes, dates, and sausage as bakers, and pastry makers crafted loaves of bread and sweets that could be bought fresh and eaten on the go. Taverns and wine shops, known as pop, provided additional food and drink options, often catering to a rowdier crowd that enjoyed gambling and lively conversation. These establishments blurred the line between food service and entertainment, creating a dining culture that was as much about socializing as it was about sustenance. Roman fast food was not limited to the capital throughout the empire. In cities such as Osta, Pompeii, and Herculaneum, Thermopylae thrived. The preserved remains of these ancient eateries provide valuable insights into Roman daily life in Pompeii. For example, a fully excavated thermopyle contains stunningly preserved frescoes depicting various dishes and ingredients, acting as a form of ancient advertising. The site also yielded remnants of food, including bones and shells, offering archaeologists a glimpse into the diets of ordinary Romans. The reliance on fast food in ancient Rome speaks to the ingenuity of its people. They developed an efficient system to accommodate the needs of a bustling urban population long before modern conveniences such as refrigeration and mass food production. The ability to quickly prepare and serve food allowed Rome's workforce to remain productive, while ensuring that even those of modest means had access to hot meals. Interestingly, aspects of Roman fast food culture have persisted into the modern world. The idea of quick, inexpensive meals served in busy urban centers is a concept that continues to define contemporary dining habits. The influence of Roman street food can even be seen in dishes that have evolved over time. Flatbreads with toppings resembling early versions of pizza fried fish, similar to modern-day fish and chips, and grilled meats that would not be out of place in today's kebab shops. While Therapia eventually faded from prominence, with the fall of the Roman Empire, their legacy endures in the way people eat today. Whether in bustling food markets, street, vendors, carts, or takeaway restaurants, the spirit of ancient Roman fast food lives on. It was a system born out of necessity, but perfected through experience, allowing generations of Romans to enjoy delicious, affordable meals in a thriving urban environment in the grand mosaic of Roman civilization. The humble Thermopolium was more than just a place that knew how to feed its people, no matter their status or wealth. Chapter 5. Romans used urine for cleaning to the modern mind. The thought of using urine as a cleaning agent might seem bizarre if not outright repulsive. Yet in ancient Rome, urine was a valuable and widely used resource, playing an essential role in everything from textile laundering to leather tanning. This unlikely substance was prized for its high ammonia content, which made it an effective natural detergent. Long before the advent of modern cleaning products, the Romans, ever resourceful, took full advantage of urine's cleansing properties, integrating it into their daily lives. In ways that might surprise us, today, public hygiene and sanitation were critical concerns in ancient Rome, a city of over 1 million people at its peak. While the elite could afford fresh water and perfumed oils to maintain cleanliness, the common people often relied on more practical and accessible methods. One of these methods involved urine collection across the city. Special pots and aerie were placed in strategic locations, allowing citizens to relieve themselves in designated areas. These receptacles were then periodically emptied, and the contents collected for commercial use, far from being seen as waste urine, was a valuable commodity that fueled a surprisingly sophisticated cleaning industry. One of the primary uses of urine in ancient Rome was in the phoni or laundries, where it served as an essential agent in textile cleaning. The ammonia in urine helped break down stains, grease, and dirt embedded in fabric, making it an effective natural bleaching agent. Roman laundry, known as phon, would collect large quantities of urine and mix it with water in stone. Vats workers would then place soiled garments into the vats and stomp on them with their feet, a process akin to modern-day washing machines, albeit with a far less appealing detergent. This laundering process was labor-intensive but effective after being soaked in the urine mixture. The clothes were rinsed thoroughly in clean water and then beaten or brushed with fuller's earth, a type of clay that further helped to remove grime and odors once dried. The garments could be brightened using sulfur fumes, ensuring that even the dirtiest tunics and togas emerged looking fresh. The fuller's industry was a vital part of Roman urban life, providing clean clothes to see from all walks of life, from senators to slaves. Urine had applications. Beyond laundering, it was also an essential ingredient in the tanning of leather. The process of turning animal hides into supple, durable leather required removing hair and fat from the skins, and urine's chemical properties made it an effective agent for this task. The ammonia in urine helped soften from the hides and remove unwanted organic material. Preparing them for further treatment with oils and dyes, leather workers depended on a steady supply of urine, ensuring that the collection and sale of this resource remained a thriving trade. The collection and sale of urine became so common that Emperor Vespasian, who ruled from 69 to 79 CE, saw an opportunity to tax it. He imposed a levy on the public urine collection industry, particularly targeting those who profited from its sale, to laundries and tanneries, when his son Titus questioned the morality of profiting from human waste. Vespasian is said to have held up a coin and remarked, "Pecunia nonet," money does not stink. This phrase became a famous Roman saying, highlighting the practical noons approach that defined much of Roman economic and social life. While urine's use in laundry and tanning may be among the most well-documented applications, it was not the only way the Romans took advantage of its properties. Urine was also employed in medicine, with some Roman physicians recommending it for wound cleaning, dental hygiene, and even skin treatments. Pliny the Elder, the renowned natural historian, noted in his writings that urine could be used to treat various ailments, including sores and infections. Though these medical applications may seem questionable today, the antiseptic properties of ammonia did provide some genuine benefits in an ERA, with limited access to effective disinfectants. The use of urine extended into personal hygiene as well. Some Romans, particularly those seeking whiter teeth, were known to rinse their mouths with urine as a form of dental care. This practice was more common in provinces like Hispania, where imported urine was sometimes sold as a luxury good for those who believed in its whitening effects. While this might sound unappealing to modern abilities, it underscores the Roman willingness to experiment with natural substances to maintain cleanliness and hygiene. Despite its undeniable utility, urine collection and use were often met with a mix of practicality and distaste. While laundries and tanneries thrived on the trade, wealthier citizens likely preferred to distance themselves from such practices. The very nature and unglamorous labor placed them in the lower echelons of Roman industry. However, this did not diminish their importance. The fawn and leather workers who depended on urine played a crucial role in keeping Rome's population clothed and supplied with essential goods. Archaeological discoveries in cities like Pompeii have provided remarkable insights into this aspect of Roman daily life. Excavations have uncovered well-preserved faun, complete with stone basins used for urine soaking and frescoes depicting the laundry process. These findings offer a vivid glimpse into a world where even bodily waste was seen as a resource to be harnessed rather than discarded. The Roman use of Urine for cleaning and industry is a testament to their ingenuity and practicality. Rather than viewing waste as something to be eliminated, they found ways to turn it into an asset, ensuring that even the most unexpected substances had a place in their economy. Their resourcefulness continues to fascinate historians and scientists alike, offering valuable lessons on sustainability and the creative use of natural materials today. While urine is no longer a staple of cleaning or industrial processes, the Roman attitude toward repurposing waste materials remains relevant. Modern science has rediscovered some of the benefits of ammonia-based cleaning agents, and sustainability efforts continue to explore ways to repurpose human and animal byproducts. Though we may no longer collect urine in pots on street corners, the Roman legacy of resourcefulness lives on, reminding us that even the most unconventional materials can have unexpected value. Chapter 6. Some emperors were truly insane. The Roman Empire produced some of the most brilliant and capable rulers in history. Men like Augustus Trajan and Marcus Aurelius, who expanded borders, reformed laws, and stabilized the vast territory under their control. But for every wise and competent emperor, there were others whose reigns were defined by erratic behavior, cruelty, and sheer madness. These rulers, driven by power, unchecked personal indulgences, or megalomaniacal delusions, left behind tales so outrageous that they sound like fiction. Yet many of these stories, whether exaggerated by political enemies or recorded with fearful fascination by historians, provide a glimpse into the excesses and instability that plagued Rome's highest office. Perhaps no emperor's name is more synonymous with insanity than gas. Julius Caesar Augustus, Germanicus, better known as Caligula, initially well-hailed as a refreshing change after the stern rule of his predecessor, Tiberius. Caligula's early reign was marked by popular reforms and extravagant public games. However, within a short time, his behavior became increasingly erratic. Some historians suggest that a severe illness early in his reign may have affected his mental state, leading to unpredictable and often terrifying decisions. Caligula's megalomania reached absurd heights. He is famously said to have planned to make his favorite horse Incitatus a consul of Rome, a role traditionally reserved for the most esteemed politicians, while some historians argue this was merely a sarcastic joke meant to mock the Senate. Others claim it reflected his disdain for Roman institutions. His excesses extended beyond the political realm. He spent vast sums of public money on lavish feasts, declared himself a living god, and engaged in humiliating power plays against senators and noble families. His reign ended abruptly in 41 CE, when he was assassinated by members of his own Praetorian Guard men who were supposed to protect him, but had grown tired of his increasingly dangerous whims. Another infamous emperor was Nero, whose name has become synonymous with tyranny and excess ruling from 54 to 68. CE Nero initially showed promise under the guidance of his mother Agrippina. The younger and wise advisors like Seneca, however, as he consolidated power, his reign became a parade of debauchery, paranoia, and cruelty. Nero was notorious for his theatrical ambitions. He saw himself as a great artist and performer, often forcing senators and citizens to endure his endless recital of poetry and music. The most infamous story surrounding Nero is that he played the lyre while Rome burned in 64 CE, according to legend. He watched from his palace, singing about the destruction of Troy as flames consumed the city. In reality, this may be an exaggeration or outright propaganda by his enemies. Some sources suggest Nero wasn't even in Rome when the fire started, and that he actually organized relief efforts. However, his decision to build a grand palace, the Domus Aurea, on land cleared by the fire, led many to believe he had orchestrated the disaster for personal gain. Eventually, his reckless spending, political purges, and erratic leadership led to his downfall, declared a public enemy by the Senate. He took his own life in 68 CE, reportedly uttering the words, "What an artist dies in me." If Caligula and Nero were examples of emperors whose excesses led to rulers so eccentric that even Rome, known for its tolerance of decadence, could not accept him. Elagabalus, who ruled from 218 to 222 CE, became emperor as a teenager and immediately shocked the empire with his bizarre religious obsessions and hedonistic behavior. A devotee of the eastern sun, god Alabalanica, with his own cult elevating a black meteorite as the empire's supreme deity and demanding that senators worship it. His personal behavior was even more shocking. He dressed in elaborate feminine clothing, allegedly married multiple times, including, according to some sources, taking a male charioteer as a husband, and delighted in confusing Roman social norms. One of the most infamous tales of his reign involves his lavish banquets, where he supposedly delighted in playing cruel tricks on guests. At one such gathering, he allegedly ordered an excessive amount of flower petals to be dropped from the ceiling, suffocating some guests who were unable to escape. While some of these stories may have been exaggerated or fabricated by his enemies, they paint a picture of a ruler utterly disconnected from reality. Ultimately, Rome had little patience for Elagabalus. His erratic rule, disregard for traditions, and scandalous behavior alienated even his closest supporters. In 222 CE, he was assassinated by his own Praetorian Guard, much like Caligula. Before him, his body was thrown into the Tiber, and his reign was erased from official histories as if Rome had tried to forget his existence altogether. While these three emperors stand out as some of the most notorious, they were far from the only rulers whose mental instability led to chaos. Codus, the son of Marcus Aurelius, believed himself to be the reincarnation of Hercules, and forced citizens to worship him as such. He even fought in the Colosseum, staging gladiatorial battles, where he always emerged victorious, often against defenseless opponents. Domitian, another paranoid ruler, executed senators and family members on the mere suspicion of disloyalty. Caracalla massacred thousands simply to eliminate potential threats to his rule. The sheer number of unstable Roman emperors raises a question: why did Rome produce so many unhinged rulers? The answer lies in the structure of imperial power. Unlike modern political systems, with checks and balances, the Roman emperor wielded absolute authority. Once in power, there were few restrictions on their behavior. Combined with the immense wealth, divine status, and paranoia that came with the position, this often led to a dangerous cocktail of excess and instability. The legacy of these mad emperors continues to fascinate modern audiences. Their antics have inspired countless books, films, and television series, cementing their place in popular culture. While some of their reputations may have been exaggerated or manipulated by political enemies, there is no doubt that the Roman Empire saw its fair share of rulers whose actions defied reason. Their stories serve as a cautionary tale about the dangers of unchecked power, reminding us that even the mightiest empires can be brought to their knees by the madness of a single ruler. Chapter 7. Roman roads were built to last. The phrase, "all roads lead to Rome," is more than just a saying. It is a testament to the vast, sophisticated, and enduring network of roads that the Romans built, spanning over 250,000 miles. 400,000 kilometers across Europe, North Africa, and the Middle East. The Roman road system was one of the greatest engineering achievements of the ancient world. Many of these roads still exist today, integrated into modern infrastructure, demonstrating the remarkable durability of Roman engineering. These roads were not just pathways for trade and travel. They were the lifelines of an empire, facilitating military campaigns, economic expansion, and cultural exchange across an unprecedented scale. The Romans approached road building with a level of sophistication that was unrivaled in the ancient world. Unlike earlier civilizations, which relied on dirt paths that became impassable during rain or seasonal flooding, the Romans constructed roads using an advanced layering technique that ensured their longevity. Their method involved excavating a trench, laying a foundation of large stones or compacted gravel, and then adding multiple LS of smaller stones, lime sand, and sometimes concrete, before paving the surface with large, tightly fitted stones. This process not only created a durable structure, but also allowed for efficient water drainage, preventing erosion, and ensuring that roads remained usable in harsh weather conditions. The slight convex shape of the roads with higher centers and sloped edges was a crucial innovation that prevented water from pooling on the surface, reducing long-term damage. The primary purpose of the Roman road system was military efficiency. Rome's ability to rapidly mobilize its legions was a key factor in its expansion and dominance, with a road network that allowed soldiers to march swiftly across vast threats, reinforce borders, and maintain control over rebellious provinces with unprecedented speed. Garrisons were strategically positioned along major roads, ensuring that Roman forces could be deployed quickly in case of emergency. The famous phrase, celeritas et gravitas, speed and seriousness, embodied Rome's military philosophy, and the road system was a direct expression of this doctrine. A legion on the move could cover roughly 20 meters per day, a pace that allowed for rapid response to external threats or internal uprisings. But the importance of Roman roads extended far beyond military applications. These roads served as the empire's commercial arteries, allowing merchants, traders, and farmers to transport goods with unparalleled efficiency: grain from Egypt, olive oil from Spain, wines from Gaul, and spices from the East could move seamlessly across the empire, fueling an economy that relied on constant movement, and trade markets thrived as goods became more accessible to both urban centers and remote provinces. The roads also facilitated the collection of taxes, as Rome's vast taxation system depended on the efficient movement of officials' goods and monetary payments between different regions. Beyond military and economic benefits, Roman roads also played a critical role in the cultural and administrative cohesion of the empire. Rome was a civilization of laws, governance, and communication, and the road system allowed for swift correspondence between provincial governors, local officials, and the central authorities in the capital messages carried by curus. Using the curus publicus, Rome's state-run postal system could travel at astonishing speeds. Relay stations were positioned at regular intervals along major roads, allowing couriers to change horses and continue their journey without delay. This system ensured that official messages and decrees from the emperor could reach the furthest corners of the empire in a matter of days rather than weeks or months. The roads physically connected Rome to its provinces, but they also served as channels through which Roman law culture and ideology spread. The construction and maintenance of these roads required significant manpower and resources. Roman engineers, or aeri, worked alongside vast teams of laborers, including soldiers, slaves, and local workers, to carve roads through mountains, span rivers with bridges, and cut through dense forests. The sheer scale of these projects demonstrated the logistical prowess of the Roman state. The empire's ability to deploy thousands of laborers, organize materials, and execute large-scale infrastructure projects. Objects with mathematical precision was a reflection of its administrative strength. Maintenance was equally important. While the initial construction of roads was often funded by the state or wealthy patrons, their upkeep was managed by local municipalities, ensuring that they remained functional for centuries. The most famous of all Roman roads was the Via Appia, or the Appian Way, which connected Rome to the southern regions of Italy. Built in 312 BCE under the direction of the censor Appius Claudius Caecus. This road earned the nickname Regina Viarum, the Queen of Roads, due to its importance in facilitating trade and military movement stretching from Rome to Brundisium, modern Brindisi. It provided a crucial link to the eastern Mediterranean and was instrumental in Rome's expansion into Greece and the eastern territories. Other notable roads included the Via Augusta in Spain, the Via Ignazia in the Balkans, and the Fosse Way in Britain. Each road had its own strategic purpose, helping to connect distant provinces to the heart of the empire. One of the most remarkable aspects of Roman roads is their enduring legacy. Many modern highways in Europe still follow the original routes laid down by Roman engineers. Some sections of ancient roads remain fully intact, their stone pavements weathered but still walkable after more than 2 millennia in Rome. Itself, remnants of these roads serve as historical landmarks, offering a glimpse into the past even after. After the fall of the Western Roman Empire in the 5th century CE, these roads continued to be used by medieval travelers, merchants, and armies, proving their durability and ongoing utility. Despite the collapse of Roman rule in the West, the influence of its road system never truly faded in the centuries that followed. European rulers and city planners often built new infrastructure along the paths laid by the Romans. The fundamental principles of Roman road construction, layered foundations, drainage systems, and durable materials, became the blueprint for modern road-building techniques. The legacy of Roman engineering lives on shaping the way people travel and connect across continents. The phrase, "all roads lead to Rome," is not just a metaphor for Rome's dominance, it is a literal truth of the ancient world. The empire's road system was a marvel of engineering, administration, and vision, enabling military and cultural unity. These roads were not merely paths of stone, but lifelines that sustained an empire for centuries. While Rome itself may have fallen, its roads endure, standing as silent witnesses to the ambition, ingenuity, and far-reaching impact of one of history's greatest civilizations. The Chapter 8. They had heated floors among the many engineering marvels of ancient Rome. One of the most remarkable and luxurious innovations was underfloor heating, known as the hypersystem. Long before modern central heating, the Romans devised a way to warm their homes, bathhouses, and public buildings using a sophisticated method that allowed hot air to circulate beneath floors and even through walls. This technological advancement was a testament to Roman ingenuity, bringing warmth and comfort to those who could afford it, and setting a precedent for modern heating systems still in use. Today, the HPOC cost system operated by channeling heat from a furnace or prum beneath the floors of a building. The floor itself was raised on a series of small pillars, or P, creating a hollow space through which hot air and smoke could travel. The heated air would rise, warming the stone or tile flooring above, before being channeled up through flue hidden in the walls, ensuring that the entire room remained comfortably warm. The design prevented direct exposure to fire while efficiently distributing heat, making it one of the earliest examples of radiant heating. Wealthy Romans, particularly those in colder regions of the empire, embraced the hypoc cost system in their private villas. Opulent homes featured heat floors in their grandest rooms, providing a level of comfort far beyond that available to the average citizen. To experience the luxury of a warm floor in winter was a mark of status, and only the elite could afford the labor and resources necessary to maintain such a system. The heating was often accompanied by elaborate mosaic flaws, which not only added aesthetic appeal, but also efficiently retained and dispersed heat throughout the room. Public bathhouses, were the most widespread beneficiaries of the hypast system. Bathing was a central aspect of Roman life, with large bath complexes serving as social, political, and recreational hubs to maintain the warm temperatures necessary for the various bathing areas. Caldarium, hot bath, tepidarium, warm bath, and frigidarium, cold bath. Hypocausts were essential furnaces, constantly fed by wood, or charcoal ensured that hot air circulated under the baths, creating a luxurious and relaxing experience for bathers. The efficiency of the system allowed Roman bathhouses to function year-round, even in the coldest climates of the empire. One of the most famous examples of a Roman hypost system can be found in the baths of Carrara in Rome. This massive complex, built in the early 3rd century CE, could accommodate thousands of visitors at a time with an extensive underground heating network, ensuring a consistent supply of warmth. Similar bathhouses were constructed across the empire, from Britain to North Africa, demonstrating the adaptability of Roman engineering to different environments and climates. The maintenance of HPOC costs required significant effort. Slaves or hired workers tended the furnaces, ensuring that fires were kept burning at a steady rate. The system also needed regular cleaning, as certain ash could build up in the channels, reducing efficiency. Despite these demands, the benefits of the hypoc cost was so significant that its use persisted for centuries, with later civilizations adapting and refining the technology. While the hypost was a marvel of ancient engineering, it was not without its drawbacks. The system required a constant supply of fuel, typically wood, which could be expensive and difficult to procure in large quantities. Additionally, hypoc costs were often limited to wealthier households and public institutions, as the cost of construction and maintenance made them impractical for the majority of the population. For those who could not afford heat floors, other methods of staying warm included portable braziers, thick woolen garments, and communal fire pits. Beyond homes and bathhouses, the Romans also employed hypost systems in military barracks and administrative buildings, particularly in colder frontier provinces such as Britannia and Germania. The need to keep soldiers warm in winter months led to the construction of heated barracks, ensuring that troops could function effectively despite harsh conditions. Excavations at sites such as Vindolanda in northern Britain have revealed well-preserved remains of hypost systems in Roman military installations, demonstrating that strategic importance after the fall of the Western Roman Empire in the 5th century CE, the widespread use of hypoc cost heating declined. Many of the grand villas and bathhouses fell into disrepair, and the technical knowledge required to maintain these systems was gradually lost. However, the concept of radiant heating medieval and Byzantine architects continued to use variations of the hypost in palaces and religious buildings, and later innovations in heating technology drew inspiration from Roman principles. The influence of Roman hypoc cost systems can still be seen today in modern underfloor heating designs. The principles of using heated air or water beneath flooring to provide radiant warmth remain a popular and efficient method of climate control in contemporary architecture. Many modern luxury homes, hotels, and public buildings incorporate underfloor heating, offering the same level of comfort that Roman elites once enjoyed over 2 millennia ago. The ingenuity of the Romans in creating heated floors is yet another example of how their engineering and architectural advancement were far ahead of their time. Their ability to harness heat and distribute it efficiently throughout buildings not only improved daily life, but also set the foundation for future heating technologies. Whether in the lavish villas of patricians, the bustling bathhouses of the common people, or the cold frontier forts of Roman soldiers, the hoc cost system was a revolutionary achievement that continues to warm the world in more ways than one. Chapter 9. Roman soldiers were paid in salt. The Roman army was one of the most disciplined and formidable military forces in history, conquering vast territories and maintaining order across an empire that stretched from Britain to the Middle East, but beyond their battlefield prowess. Roman soldiers were also part of a well-structured economic system that ensured they were compensated for their service. One of the most intriguing aspects of their payment was the role of salt, a commodity so valuable in the ancient world that it sometimes served as currency. This practice not only influenced the logistics of the Roman military, but also left a linguistic legacy that persists to this day. Our modern word salary comes from the Latin salarium, which referred to the payments associated with salt. In the ancient world, salt was an essential resource, unlike today. When it is inexpensive and readily available, salt in antiquity was difficult to obtain and highly prized. It was a necessity for preserving food, especially meat and fish, in an era without refrigeration. Salt also played a crucial role in medicine, religious rituals, and even agriculture. Because of its importance, it became a commodity of trade, often used as a form of payment or exchange in various civilizations, including Rome. While Roman soldiers were primarily paid in coinage, typically denarii, or CTIEY salt, was sometimes used as part of their compensation. The term salarium originally referred to an allowance given to soldiers, so they could purchase salt, which was essential for their rations over time. This term evolved to signify a soldier's wages more broadly. Although soldiers were not regularly given salt in place of money, its value was recognized to the extent that it became synonymous with their earnings. The saying "worth one's salt," which refers to someone being valuable or competent in their work, originates from this practice, illustrating just how fundamental salt was to Roman society and economy. The strategic importance of salt extended beyond military wages. The Roman state controlled salt production and distribution, ensuring a stable supply for both civilian military use. Salt works, or salini, were established across the empire, particularly in coastal areas where seawater could be evaporated to produce salt. The Via Salaria, one of the earliest Roman roads, was named after the salt trade, as it facilitated the transport of salt from the Adriatic coast to Rome. This road was vital not only for commerce, but also for supplying legions stationed in different parts of the empire. The control of salt production was considered a matter of state importance, and securing access to salt mines or coastal salt pans was often a military priority. Disruptions in salt production could severely impact the army's ability to function effectively, which is why Roman military planners ensured a steady supply. Rome soldiers relied on salt, not just for seasoning food, but also for preserving their rations. The army's standard diet included pasca, a vinegar-water mixture, dried grains, legumes, and salted meats or fish. The ability to preserve food with salt allowed legions to remain mobile, reducing their dependence on local supplies, and enabling long campaigns in foreign territories without reliable food preservation. Methods, large-scale military operations, would have been significantly more difficult to sustain. Soldiers often carried small sacks of salt with them as part of their standard provisions, ensuring that even when fresh supplies were scarce, their food remained edible for longer periods. Beyond its practical uses, salt also held symbolic and cult significance in Rome. It was associated with purity, loyalty, and friendship. Salt was often used in religious ceremonies, including sprinkled on offerings, and considered a divine gift, reinforcing its value. In Roman society, additionally, treaties and agreements were sometimes sealed with an offering of salt, signifying trust and good faith. Between parties, it was believed that sharing salt with someone created a bond of hospitality, an unspoken contract of mutual respect. Salt's role in military and economic life was not unique to Rome. Other ancient civilizations, including the Egyptians, Greeks, and Chinese, also recognized its value. However, Rome's structured approach to resource management ensured that salt played an integral role in its administration. By controlling its supply and distribution, Rome could regulate trade and maintain a steady economic system that benefited both the state and its soldiers. Salt was so valuable that it was even used as a form of taxation in some provinces rather than collecting currency. Roman officials levied taxes in salt, which can be distributed where needed, whether to the military merchants or other state officials. Although the regular payment of soldiers eventually shifted fully to coinage, the legacy of salt remained embedded in language and culture. The concept of a salary originally tied to the provision of salt became a fundamental part of employment systems around the world. Even in modern times, phrases such as "worth one's salt" reflect the historical significance of salt as a measure of a person's value and contribution. The importance of salt also extended to the economy beyond the military. Many Roman merchants and traders built entire fortunes on the sale of salt, as the demand for it was constant across the empire's cities, and settlements often grew around salt mines or salt-producing regions, reinforcing its status as a foundational commodity of Roman economic life. The Roman military was not just a fighting force, it was an institution that required careful planning, resource management, and logistical efficiency. The use of salt as part of its economic system highlights the pragmatic and strategic thinking that defined Roman governance, from the battlefields of Gaul to the distant outposts of Britannia. Roman soldiers marched, fought, and lived with the knowledge that their service was recognized sometimes in the form of coin, and sometimes in the form of something as simple yet vital as salt. The legacy of this practice endures, hidden in the language we use every day, reminding us of the profound influence of the Roman Empire on the modern world. Even after the fall of the Western Roman Empire in the 5th century, CE salt continued to hold its value in successor states, and medieval Europe. Salt taxes remained a major source of revenue for various kingdoms and empires throughout history. The gabelle salt tax imposed in France became one of the key grievances that contributed to the French Revolution in China. The monopoly on salt was a major source of state revenue for centuries. Even in the Americas, salt played a crucial role in the development of trade networks and economies. Ultimately, the use of salt as part of military compensation may have faded, but its impact on economic systems, language, and trade endures. The Romans understood that stability and power came not just from military might, but from strategic control over essential resources. Their management of salt, whether as a salary supplement, a trade good, or a tax commodity, demonstrates the complexity and foresight of Roman administration. The saying that an army marches on its stomach has never been truer than in the case of Rome, where salt quite literally kept the empire running, whether preserving rations, sealing diplomatic agreements, or forming the basis for a soldier's pay. Salt was far more than just a seasoning. It was a cornerstone of one of the greatest civilizations in history. Chapter 10. Women had more rights than you'd expect. Ancient Rome was a patriarchal society, with laws and customs that favored men in politics, law, and public life. However, Roman women had more rights and freedoms than many of their counterparts in other ancient civilizations, though they were excluded from voting, holding public office, or serving in the military. Women in Rome could own property, run businesses, initiate divorces, and inherit wealth. Many found ways to wield influence behind the scenes, shaping political and economic affairs, in ways that defied the limitations placed on them by law and custom. Unlike women in ancient Greece, who were largely confined to the domestic sphere and had little legal autonomy, Roman women had the ability to manage their own affairs. To a significant degree, Roman law allowed women to inherit wealth and property, meaning that many became independent landowners, business operators, and benefactors. While initially women were legally under the authority of their fathers or husbands, by the late Republic and early Empire laws had evolved to allow more legal independence, particularly for widows who could manage their own estates. One of the most notable legal freedoms granted to Roman women was the right to divorce, unlike in many other ancient societies where marriage was largely unbreakable. Roman women could initiate divorce proceedings, a right that was increasingly exercised during the late Republic and early Empire. Divorce was often a straightforward process, sometimes as simple as declaring the marriage over in the presence of witnesses. Women who divorced were often allowed to retain their diaries, giving them financial security and the ability to remarry or live independently. Women in Rome were also active participants in business and trade. Many owned shops, managed estates, and even engaged in lending money. Some became highly successful entrepreneurs, dealing in textiles, food production, or shoe shipping. Inscriptions and legal documents from the period mention women who operated brick factories, managed taverns, or oversaw agricultural enterprises. Wealthy women could use their financial power to fund public works or sponsor games and festivals, elevating their social standing, even if they could not officially hold political office. Despite the legal and societal constraints placed on them, women often found ways to exert power and influence, particularly in elite circles. Many noble women played crucial roles in shaping political decisions, particularly as wives, mothers, and advisors to powerful men. Some became so influential that they shaped the course of history from behind the scenes. Livia Drusilla, the wife of Emperor Augustus, was one such figure. She was rumored to have played a major role in court politics, advising her husband and later working to secure the succession of her son, Tiberius. Other women, such as Agrippina the Younger, the mother of Emperor Nero, were central figures in imperial politics, navigating court intrigue and influencing decisions at the highest levels of government. Religious role also offered Roman women an avenue for public engagement and prestige. The Vestal Virgins, one of the most respected religious orders in Rome, were priestesses dedicated to the goddess Vesta. They were entrusted with maintaining the sacred flame of Rome, and had privileges that most other women did not. including financial independence and the ability to own property. Their role was so important that harming a Vestal virgin was considered a serious crime. Similarly, women from elite families often served as priestesses in cults, honoring deities such as Ceres Isis or Sel, giving them social status and influence within their communities. Education for women, particularly those from wealthy families, was also more widespread than in many other Aeneid societies. While women were not formally educated to the same degree as men, elite girls often received instruction in literature, philosophy, and rhetoric, particularly if they belonged to influential families. Some women became poets, philosophers, and writers, leaving behind works that have survived in fragments or been referenced by later historians. Cornelia, the mother of the Grey brothers, was famous for her intelligence and oratory, and she was considered an ideal example of Roman womanhood due to her education and political acumen. The legal status of women in Rome improved significantly under the empire, particularly with the introduction of new laws that expanded their financial and social freedoms. The Lex Oppia, which had restricted women's ability to display wealth, was repealed in 1950 BCE after women publicly protested against it. Later laws allowed women more control over their own dows and property, reducing the influence of male guardians. By the 2nd and 3rd centuries, CE upper-class women in particular had achieved levels of financial independence that would not be seen again for centuries. Women in Rome were also actively involved in philanthropy. Wealthy women often used their resources to fund public buildings, temples, and charities. They established relief programs for the poor, funded schools, and provided aid during times of crisis. Their contributions were recognized through inscriptions and statues, demonstrating their prominence in Roman society, unlike in many ancient cultures where women's achievements were often unrecorded. Roman women who played a public role in their communities were sometimes honored with monuments and dedications that have survived to this day. One striking example of female influence in Rome was Fulvia, the wife of Mark Antony, who played an active role in politics and even led troops into battle. She was heavily involved in the political conflicts of the late Republic, financing armies and exerting direct pressure on senators and magistrates. Her ambition and assertiveness made her a controversial figure, but her role in Roman politics demonstrated the extent to which some women could wield power when they had the means and opportunity. While women in Rome had more rights than in many other ancient civilizations, their status was still defined by their systems assumed that women were under the protection or authority of a male relative. Even those who wielded great influence, such as empresses, often did so through their connections to husbands, fathers, or sons. Social expectations also placed limitations on women's behavior, and those who stepped too far beyond traditional roles could face backlash or scandal. Despite these restrictions, the role of women in Rome was far from passive, whether managing businesses, influencing politics, serving in religious roles, or securing financial independence. Roman women had more rights and opportunities than one might expect from an ancient patriarchal society. Their resilience and resourcefulness ensured that even in a world dominated by men, they found ways to shape history, often in ways that went unrecorded but were no less significant. The stories of powerful Roman women from the merchant class to the imperial court illustrate the complexity of gender roles in the ancient world and reveal how deeply women were woven into the fabric of Roman society. Chapter 11. They had a goddess of the sewer system. The Romans were renowned for their engineering, marvels from aqueducts to monumental buildings, but one of their most essential and enduring achievements was their sewer system. The Cacca Maxima, one of the earliest large-scale drainage systems in the world, played a crucial role in maintaining the ith and functionality of Rome. However, what may come as a surprise is that the Romans did not simply rely on their engineering prowess to keep their city clean. They also sought divine protection. The goddess Cloacina was worshipped as the guardian of Rome's sewer system, symbolizing the intersection of sanitation, engineering, and religion. The Cacca Maxima, which translates to Great Sewer, was initially built in the 6th century BCE. Under the reign of the Etruscan kings, it was designed to drain marshy land in the low-lying areas of Rome, particularly around the Roman Forum, and to channel waste and excess water into the Tiber River. Over time, it expanded into an intricate system of underground tunnels, helping to prevent flooding and keep the city's streets relatively clean. The fact that parts of this system remain in use today is a testament to the durability and foresight of Roman engineering given the importance of sanitation to urban life. It is no surprise that the Romans deified aspects of their sewer system. Cloacin, whose name is derived from the Latin word cacca sua, was originally an atrasan, or early Roman goddess associated with purification. Her role later evolved to encompass the oversight of the Cacca Maxima, and, by extension, the city's hygiene. Unlike many other Roman deities, who were worried for martial prowess, love, or harvests, Cleon represented the essential but often overlooked realm of sanitation and public health. A small shrine to CLCH once stood near the Roman Forum, close to where a major section of the Cacca Maxima was visible. This shrine was an acknowledgement of the goddess's role in protecting the city from disease and filth. Romans believed that by honoring CLA, they could ensure the continued functionality of their drainage system and the overall cleanliness of their metropolis. Given the link between poor sanitation and disease, it is likely that Kina's worship was not just symbolic, but a genuine expression of concern for public health. Interestingly, Hecla's influence extended beyond sanitation. She was sometimes associated with Venus, the goddess of love, and was invoked in rituals related to marriage and purification. This connection likely stemmed from the broader Roman concept of pietas, the idea that all aspects of life, including the seemingly mundane or utilitarian, were tied to the divine. The blending of deities and functions was common in Roman religion, reinforcing the idea that even the most practical elements of daily life required spiritual oversight. The Cloaca Maxima itself was an impressive feat of engineering, demonstrating Rome's ability to manage large-scale infrastructure projects. Initially an open drainage canal, it was gradually covered and expanded, forming an underground system capable of handling stormwater and waste. While it was not a modern sewer in the sense of separating drinking water from waste disposal, it significantly reduced stagnant water and improved urban living conditions. Maintenance of the system was considered a civic duty, and officials known as Catoris Clarum were responsible for overseeing its upkeep. The fact that some sections of the Cloaca Maxima still function today speaks volumes about its construction. Beyond its practical benefits, the sewer system also held symbolic significance for Rome's identity. The Romans prided themselves on their city's cleanliness and infrastructure. Seeing it as a mark of civilization, the maintenance of public sanitation was an essential duty of the state, and officials took their responsibilities seriously. The presence of a goddess associated with sanitation was not merely a mundane concern, but a divine imperative. Roman religion was deeply intertwined with daily life, and the deification of essential functions, like sanitation, reflects the culture's pragmatic spirituality. Unlike modern societies where infrastructure is largely seen as secular and managed by governments or municipalities, the Romans imbued their civic works with religious meaning by invoking clena. They acknowledged the necessity of maintaining a clean and functioning city. Blending practical governance with divine oversight, the concept of deifying urban infrastructure was not unique to Rome, but the prominence of clen illustrates how deeply the Romans valued cleanliness and public health. While gods of war, wisdom, and love were more well-known, Hecla's presence among Rome's divine protectors highlights the holistic nature of Rome, religious belief. The goddess was a reminder that even the most utilitarian aspects of civilization needed careful attention and respect. Though the worship of Closon faded with the decline of traditional Roman religion, her legacy endured in the form of the Cacca Maxima and the broader Roman approach to urban sanitation. Today, modern sewer systems owe much to Roman engineering principles and the idea that a city must maintain clean water and effective drainage remains a fundamental tenet of public health. While modern societies may not invoke deities to safeguard their infrastructure, the underlying principle remains the same. A well-maintained sanitation system is essential for a thriving civilization. The Romans, ever pragmatic, understood that their city's greatness depended not only on its grand temple's military might or artistic achievements, but also on the less glamorous yet equally vital aspects of daily life. The presence of Caecina as a divine figure serves as a reminder that even the most unassuming elements of civilization, sewers, drainage, and public sanitation, were worthy of reverence and careful stewardship. In honoring their sewer system with a goddess, the Romans demonstrated a level of civic awareness that was well ahead of its time, proving that a great civilization is built not only on monuments, but also on the unseen infrastructure that sustains it. Chapter 12. The Romans used an early form of air conditioning. The Romans were master engineers, not only in building roads, aqueducts, and massive public structures, but also in finding ways to improve everyday life. One of the most fascinating and lesser-known innovations of ancient Rome was their early attempt at air conditioning. In an era long before electricity or mechanical cooling systems, the Romans devised a way to regulate indoor temperatures by running cold water through the walls of wealthy homes and public buildings. This rudimentary form of air conditioning provided relief from the sweltering Mediterranean summers and demonstrated the Romans' ingenuity in harnessing natural elements for comfort. The key to this cooling system was the widespread use of aqueducts, which brought fresh water from distant sources into the city. These aqueducts supplied not only public fountains, baths, and latrines, but also private homes belonging to the elite. By designing a system where cold water could circulate through the walls or beneath the floors of buildings, the Romans effectively created an early version of climate control. Water was typically drawn from underground sources or shaded reservoirs, where it remained cooler than the surrounding air, making it an effective means of cooling interior spaces. This innovation was particularly evident in wealthy Roman villas and palaces, where elaborate plumbing networks allowed cold water to flow through hollow walls and under raised floors. The effect was a cooling sensation similar to the radiant heating of the Hippost system. But in reverse, instead of distributing warm air from a furnace, the system helped dissipate heat by allowing cool water to absorb and remove excess warmth from the living spaces. While this did not lower temperatures to the degree of modern air conditioning, it significantly improved indoor comfort, particularly in regions where summers could be brutally hot. The Romans' approach to climate control extended beyond cooling systems within homes. Architectural design played a crucial role in temperature regulation. Wealthy Romans built their homes with thick stone walls, which helped insulate against heat. Courtyards, with shaded gardens and central pools, helped maintain a cooler microclimate, while atriums and peristyles promoted airflow throughout the home. The strategic placement of windows, often facing north, in warm regions, helped limit direct exposure to the sun, while still allowing ventilation. Public buildings also benefited from these cooling techniques. Roman baths, for example, utilized both heating and cooling elements, while the caldarium provided hot steam baths. The frigidarium featured cold water pools, where Romans could cool off some large water circulated through the walls, creating a cooling effect in select chambers. Similarly, systems and underground storage areas were used to keep perishable goods cool, functioning like natural refrigerators. In addition to their early air conditioning methods, the Romans were highly skilled in creating shaded public spaces, Porticos, colonnades, and covered walkways provided respite from the sun, allowing pedestrians to navigate the city in relative comfort markets. Temples and government buildings often incorporated large awnings known as velaria, which could be extended to provide shade. The Colosseum, one of Rome's most famous landmarks, featured a massive retractable awning system that covered the seating area, protecting spectators from the intense sun while still allowing for air circulation. The use of water for cooling was not limited to homes and public spaces. It was also integrated into Roman gardens and outdoor retreats. Wealthy Romans often constructed elaborate gardens with flowing fountains, shaded pavilions, and even artificial waterfalls. These elements not only provided aesthetic beauty, but also contributed to a cooling effect as evaporating water helped reduce surrounding temperatures. Some villas outside Rome, particularly in TIV, were famous for their extensive use of water features designed to keep their interiors cool. While the benefits of these cooling systems were mostly enjoyed by the upper classes, the principles of Roman air conditioning had a broader impact on AR architecture and urban planning. Many of these techniques were later adopted and refined by Byzantine and Islamic architects, who expanded on the use of water-cooled walls and shaded courtyards. In hot climates, the concept of using water to regulate temperature was further developed in Persian Khanate systems and medieval European cloister gardens, both of which were influenced by Roman innovations. Despite their ingenuity, Roman cooling systems had limitations, unlike modern air conditioning, which allows precise temperature control. Roman methods relied on passive cooling and the availability of natural resources. The infrastructure required to run cold water through walls was costly and labor-intensive, making it accessible only to the wealthy. Why? Additionally, the effectiveness of these systems varied depending on location and climate. Homes in cooler regions of the empire, such as Britannia or Gaul, had less need for elaborate cooling mechanisms than those in Egypt or North Africa. The decline of the Roman Empire led to the deterioration of many of these advanced engineering systems, including aqueducts and cooling structures. However, the knowledge of passive cooling techniques persisted in later civilizations, influencing architectural developments in the Middle East, Spain, and beyond. Many modern architectural practices, such as geothermal cooling, thermal mass, insulation, and passive airflow design, share similarities with the strategies employed by the Romans centuries ago. Ultimately, the Roman approach to air conditioning was another example of their ability to blend engineering, architecture, and environmental adaptation to improve daily life. Their innovative use of water circulation, shaded structures, and intelligent building design allowed them to create a more comfortable living environment long before the advent of modern technology today. As the world looks for sustainable ways to cool buildings without excessive energy consumption, the Romans' early cooling methods offer valuable insights into how architecture can harmonize with nature to create efficient climate-responsive spaces. Chapter 13. Romans had laughing clubs. The ancient Romans are often remembered for their military conquests, advanced engineering, and complex political structures, but they also recognize the importance of mental well-being long before modern psychology and therapy. The Romans understood that laughter could be a powerful tool for maintaining mental health and social cohesion. As a result, they developed an early form of laughter therapy through gatherings known as ars convivia, or laughing clubs. These sole events were designed to promote joy, reduce stress, and foster a sense of community, an innovative approach that reflects the Romans' deep appreciation for the connection between emotional health and daily life. Laughter has long been associated with health benefits, and the Romans were no strangers to this idea. Philosophers and physicians of the time acknowledged the importance of humor and lightheartedness in maintaining balance and relieving the burdens of everyday life. Writers such as Cicero, Seneca, and Pliny the Elder commented on the power of laughter, with some arguing that it could aid digestion, lift the spirit, and even strengthen social bonds. The Epicurean, a philosophical school that promoted the pursuit of pleasure and the avoidance of pain, considered laughter an essential part of a contented life. Even the Stoics, who emphasized discipline, humor had a place in maintaining a healthy mind. The concept of risus convivia was based on the belief that communal laughter could provide psychological and even physical relief. These gatherings took place in private homes, public spaces, and even bathhouse, where people would come together to share jokes, humorous stories, and playful antics. Some of these gatherings involved professional jesters, satirists, or theatrical performers who specialized in making people laugh. Others were more informal, relying on participants to tell jokes, engage in comedic debates, or simply laugh for the sake of laughter. Itself, one of the key elements of the laughter clubs was their inclusivity. They were open to people of various social classes, from wealthy elites to common citizens. This made them somewhat unique in a society where class distinctions were often rigid, in the same way that public bathhouses brought together individuals from different backgrounds. For relaxation and hygiene, laughter clubs allowed for a brief escape from societal hierarchies. In these spaces, laughter was the great equalizer, bridging gaps between rich and poor, young and old, and even free citizens and slaves. The Romans also believed that laughter had a direct connection to physical health. Galen, one of the most famous physicians of antiquity, theorized that laughter stimulated circulation and helped release bodily ion. He compared it to moderate exercise, noting that a hearty laugh could increase heart rate and breathing similar to physical activity. The idea that laughter could shake off melancholy was echoed by later Roman thinkers who saw it as a remedy for anxiety and stress. In addition to private gatherings, laughter played a role in Roman festivals and public entertainment events such as the Satalia festival, which celebrated the inversion of social norms, often included comedic performances and humorous spectacles. Theatrical productions, particularly those in the tradition of Plutus and Terence, emphasized satire, slapstick comedy, and exaggerated caricatures, all of which encouraged laughter among audiences. Even in the Colosseum, gladiatorial games were sometimes preceded by comic relief. Acts, including performances by clowns, mimics, and pranksters, who entertained the crowd before the main events. Interestingly, Roman emperors and elites also participated in these laughter-based gatherings. Although their motivations varied, some rulers, such as Augustus and Hadrian, were known for their appreciation of humor and storytelling, often surrounding themselves with witty companions. Others, like Nero, engaged in laughter more for self-indulgence, forcing courtiers to laugh at his jokes under threat of punishment. While some emperors used laughter as a way to connect with their people, others saw it as a tool for manipulation and control. The decline of rue convivia as an organized activity likely occurred as Rome transitioned from its classical period into its later, more rigid and austere centuries. As Christianity became the dominant religious force in the empire, attitudes toward laughter shifted. While early Christian leaders did not reject humor outright, they placed greater emphasis on solemnity, reflection, and self-restraint. Laughter was still present in Roman society, but it was no longer seen as a structured therapeutic practice, despite their disappearance as formal institutions. Roman laughing clubs left a lasting legacy. Many of their principles using humor as a form of social bonding, recognizing the health benefits of laughter, and gathering in communal spaces to relieve stress can still be seen today. The modern concept of laughter yoga, which promotes voluntary laughter for health benefits, mirrors the Roman belief and laughter as a means of well-being. Likewise, contemporary comedy clubs, stand-up performances, and humorous social gatherings reflect the enduring human need for shared joy and entertainment. The Romans, with their blend of practicality and appreciation for pleasure, understood something that modern science has confirmed. Laughter is more than just an emotional response. It is a tool for healing connection and resilience. The risus convivia were not just frivolous gatherings, but early examples of mental health awareness, demonstrating that even in the grandeur of an empire, people needed simple, joyful moments to sustain them. As we continue to explore ways to manage stress and enhance well-being in the modern world, the Romans' approach to laughter remains an inspiring reminder that sometimes the best therapy is simply a good laugh shared with others. Chapter 14. The empire survived in the East for 1,000 more years. The fall of Rome in 476 CE is often seen as the end of the Roman Empire. But this is only half the story. While the Western Roman Empire collapsed under the weight of internal strife and external invasions, its eastern counterpart, what would later be called the Byzantine Empire, endured for nearly 1,000 more years. This Eastern Roman modern-day Istanbul preserve Obed. Roman traditions, laws, and cultural achievements. While adapting to new challenges, the Byzantines saw themselves as Romans ruled by Roman emperors, and maintaining a continuation of the ancient imperial system long after the fall of Rome in the West. The division of the Roman Empire into eastern and western halves was not a sudden event, but the result of administrative and military necessity. Emperor Diocletian 284–35 CE formerly split the empire in the late 3rd century to better manage its vast territories, appointing co-emperors to govern different regions. His successor, Constantine the Great, R36–337 CE, established Constantinople as the new capital of the eastern half in 330 CE, strategically positioned at the crossroads of Europe and Asia. Constantinople was easier to defend than Rome boasted natural harbors and had access to trade routes that connected the Mediterranean with the riches of the East. When the Western Roman Empire fell to Germanic invasions in 476 CE, the eastern half remained intact. The last Western emperor, Romulus Augustulus, was deposed by the Germanic chieftain Odessa, but in the East Emperor Zeno 474–491 CE continued to rule from Constantinople. Still considering himself the ruler of all Romans, the idea of a unified empire persisted in name, even as the political reality had shifted. The Eastern Roman Empire not only survived, but thrived under the rule of some of history's most formidable leaders. One of the most significant was Justinian IR 527–565 CE, who sought to restore Rome's former glory. His general Belisarius led campaigns to reconquer North Africa, Italy, and parts of Spain, briefly reuniting large portions of the empire. Justinian also commissioned the Corpus Juris Civilis, or Justinian's Code, a legal system that would influence European law for centuries. His reign saw the construction of the magnificent Hagia Sophia, a symbol of Byzantine architectural and cultural achievements. Despite its resilience, the Byzantine Empire faced constant threats. The rise of Islam in the 7th century led to rapid Arab conquests, resulting in the loss of Egypt, Syria, and much of North Africa. The Byzantines, however, adapted, relying on their formidable navy and the development of Greek fire, a secret weapon that allowed them to repel numerous sieges of Constantinople. The theme system, a military administrative innovation, helped them survive by granting land to soldiers in exchange for military service, ensuring a steady defense force, even in times of crisis. Culturally, the Byzantine Empire was a fusion of Roman governments, Greek philosophy, and Christian theology. While Latin had been the language of administration, in earlier centuries, Greek gradually became dominant, shaping Byzantine identity. The empire played a crucial role in serving and transmitting classical knowledge, particularly during the European Middle Ages, when much of the West had lost access to Roman and Greek texts. Byzantine scholars safeguarded works of Plato, Aristotle, and Hippocrates, later influencing the Renaissance when these ideas were reintroduced to Western Europe. The empire also played a pivotal role in the spread of Christianity following Emperor Constantine's embrace of Christianity. The Byzantine Empire became a center for religious thought and debate. The early ecumenical councils, which defined many core doctrines of Christianity, took place under Byzantine rule in 1054. A schism between the Roman Catholic Church in the West and the Eastern Orthodox Church in the East formalized the growing divide between Constantinople and Rome, a split that remains to this day by the late Middle Ages. The Byzantine Empire had become a shadow of its former self. The Crusades, initially launched to defend Christian territories, often harmed Byzantium more than they helped. The most devastating blow came in 1204, when the Fourth Crusade, instead of attacking Muslim hell, Jerusalem sacked Constantinople itself. The city was plundered, and a Latin empire was established in its place. Though the Byzantines eventually recaptured Constantinople in 1261, the empire never fully recovered from the devastation. Over the following centuries, the Byzantine Empire continued to shrink, facing relentless pressure from the rising Ottoman Turks. The Ottomans gradually conquered Byzantine lands in Anatolia and the Balkans, culminating in the final siege of Constantinople in 1453 on May 29. 1453, the last Byzantine emperor Constantine the Pheno, the Palaiologos, died defending the city at Sultan Mehmed II, and his forces breached the walls with the fall of Constantinople. The Byzantine Empire came to an end, marking the final chapter of the Roman state that had lasted for over 1,500 years from its founding in 27 BCE. Although the Byzantine Empire was gone, its influence endured. The Ottoman Empire absorbed many aspects of Byzantine administration, architecture, and governance. The Hagia Sophia, once the greatest church in Christendom, was its legacy even under a new empire. Meanwhile, Byzantine scholars fleeing the Ottomans carried Greek manuscripts and classical knowledge into Western Europe, fueling the intellectual revival of the Renaissance. The idea of Rome never truly disappeared. The Eastern Orthodox Church, centered in Moscow after the fall of Constantinople, saw itself as the spiritual successor of Byzantium, and Russia even adopted the title Third Rome to signify its claim as the heir of the Roman Byzantine legacy. Byzantine legal traditions, religious practices, and artistic influences continued to shape European and Middle Eastern societies for centuries after the empire's fall. The story of the Byzantine Empire challenges the notion that Rome simply fell in 476 CE. Instead, it transformed, adapted, and endured for 1,000 more years, evolving into a unique and powerful civilization in its own right. Though the Western Empire crumbled under external invasions, the East thrived, preserving the Roman legacy until the walls of Constantinople finally fell. The Byzantines, in their long and complex history, were not merely the last Romans. They were, in many ways, the bridge between the ancient and modern worlds.